Let's learn some basic skills for dividing and slicing photos. This technique makes for a really artistic layout, and I really love the way they look. Here's the layout for the first time I did it. I love the quote on this layout, and this is my written tutorial, and I may refer to it from time to time so that I don't forget to leave anything out. But let's go into Photoshop Elements, and first let's talk about the grid. This is going to give you a few basics on how you can utilize the grid in Photoshop Elements. Under the Edit drop-down menu, go to Preferences and then Grid, and you'll see here I prefer to use a grid in inches simply because this is the measurement that I am familiar with and can identify, and it's easier for me to scrap using a grid and something I can visualize. And I generally will do my grid line every 1 inch with only 2 subdivisions. For me, if I get too many subdivisions, the grid is too busy for me, and I cannot seem to use it, but occasionally I need to go in here and quickly change these for various purposes. You can see here you can change it from lines to dashed lines to dots. Of course, I usually use lines, and you can also change it to different colors. So if you are using maybe a photo that has a lot of blue in it, or gray, which is the default, you can change it to many different colors. Let's see if we can maybe utilize yellow for this tutorial and see what happens. Now, to activate the grid, you simply go down to the View menu and click on Grid. You can see now that we have yellow lines. The straight lines are the ones that are 1 inch apart. And so, for instance, here is a block that is 1 inch apart. The dotted lines are that second number in the preferences where I had 2, and so this 1 inch across is now divided into 2 sections, and so the dotted lines here are mark a 1/2 an inch. Now, if I needed something more closer together, I might go in and choose 4 so that this would be divided into 4 sections. Another important thing to utilize under the View drop-down menu is to make sure that Snap to Grid is checked. Now, you don't always want to use that, but what this does is when you're making a selection or resizing something, Photoshop Elements you'll feel it pull toward those lines on the grid. If you are not wanting it to do that, if it's driving you nuts, certainly turn it off. But for the purposes of this tutorial, it's very helpful to have the Snap to turned on. Okay, here is my photo of some azaleas in my yard, and what I have done is, and I'm not sure yellow's the best color, I guess so. What I've done is counted off, because I want to divide this photo into thirds. I'm going to choose a number of inches that is divisible by 3, and so what I've done is counted off 9 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I've just simply resized my photo, and you'll see it just snaps right into there to fit 9 inches. That way I can know that I can have equal 1/3 for each of these sections that I'm going to be creating when I'm slicing this photo. Now, you know, you may not want your photo this big in your layout. That doesn't matter because we can resize this up and down after we slice it. We want to make it something very easy and practical for us to slice, and so we're just going to resize it to fit our grid to make it easy to slice. I'm going to choose my rectangular marquee tool now, and I'm going to simply make a selection of 3 of those squares, which would be 1/3 of 9. And make sure that my photo layer is the active layer and hit Control J on my keyboard. And you'll notice it put that first section on a layer of its own. Now I'm going to go back in and select the next 3. And then I'm going to hit Control, whoops, you need to go over here and make sure you're on the correct layer. Go back to the original photo layer and then hit Control J on the keyboard. And now I have my second section. And then let's go back to that original layer and select the last 3 inches of the photo and hit Control J. Now you can turn off the visibility of the first photo and go ahead, if it's annoying for you, and temporarily remove that grid. Now you can see that these 3 are on separate layers, but yet they continue to make one perfect photo. And what you can do then is, if you need to, you can lock them all to resize them to whatever size you need. You can then unlock them and use your arrow keys to nudge them apart so they are exactly the same amount apart from each other. Now in Photoshop Elements 6, the nudging just doesn't work well unless you go ahead and bring up the transform tool by hitting Control T on your keyboard. Then I'm going to nudge this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places away and accept it. I'm going to do this one, Control T, to bring up my transform tool. In earlier versions you didn't have to do that. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now they are exactly the equal distance apart, and so this space in between is similar, or is exactly the same. And now I'm going to go ahead and put a white stroke around each of these. I don't have a, you can't see it because I don't have a, here's a black layer. And then you can also go and put your drop shadows on each of the layers. Now you can see I need to go ahead and nudge these over 1, 2, 3, a few more, because now that I've added 1, 2, 3, and I didn't get a stroke around this one. I think I put a double stroke around that one. I was thinking and talking. I can do that again until you get it how you like it. And so that shows you how you can easily divide a photo. Now let me show you these same ones that I previously did, and I went ahead and just turned those and angled them, and it makes a whole nother effect. So you can see how you can begin to get really creative with these photos. Oh, I've closed my bin out. I'm going to now go down and choose another photo. And let's talk about this one. I have my son here sitting down and his friend on a bench. And I'm going to turn on the grid again and make sure it's lined up. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right now I have it at 10. Let's move it down to 9. And you can see if I decided to cut this off, 1, 2, 3, let's go change this. I don't like the yellow. How about you? You having trouble seeing the yellow? Let's change it to this blue. Much better. You can see here, if I would decide 1, 2, 3 to divide this in thirds, this line here is going to divide down right in the middle of his face. That might not be something that I would prefer to do. So you don't have to divide these equally into equal parts. And so what I've done for this photo is I've gone ahead and resized it up so that it takes up 10 inches. And what I'm going to do now is make it in a section of 3, another section of 3, and then a section of 4. And if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to cut it right down by the edge of his arm. Instead of doing that for you, I'm just going to show you. I've already done that here. And let's bring this black layer down. I'm going to need an occasional background layer. And let's turn off the grid. And you can see how effective that was. That actually is not, this sample is not a 334 sample. In this sample here, it is actually, I believe, a 2, 3, 5. And so it's progressively getting larger. And so that's another way that you can divide it, is to have it progressively get larger as you go from left to right, or even from right to left. I think progressively larger left to right is better because that's the way we read, but it also would depend on your photo. So that is those are some more ideas to spark your imagination. In this set here, here's the 3, 3, 4 division, where I have 3 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. But in this sample, I've converted these two to black and white, and I've left this one in color to bring focus onto the boys. And so you can also do that by changing all but one of the squares, or in this case rectangles, into black and white except for one. Leave one in color. Are you getting inspired yet? There's just so much here. Here's another photo of these two guys. Now to divide these up, let's go ahead and turn our grid on. I just went wild and made the shapes work with the photo, and I'm trying to see, let's zoom in a little bit. I have this on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's resized to 8, but actually it doesn't matter as long as you have it from one set of lines to another, something for you to work from. And then I simply grabbed my tool and I went to the line that went right above his head, and I drew a selection right around my sun, and I made that a layer of its own. And then I visualized before I made it what I had left. I made sure I noted where I made my selection. And so on this one, then for the second one, I just went around this boy, and I ended up in the same level as on this line here, and I put him on his own layer. And then I went ahead and for the next selection I grabbed this section, and for the next selection I grabbed this section. And so I didn't really even need to count. I just visualized where I had already selected and made a new layer and where I hadn't yet, and visualized how I wanted to slice the photo up to best work with the photo. And then let me show you what happened. After I sliced it, I went ahead and before I added a border, I added a layer style, and if you go down here to photo effects, you're going to see some gray tones, and down here this one here is a sepia tone, and I applied that layer style to these 3 photos, and I left my sun in color, and then you can see I just kind of manually grabbed them and moved them around until something came together and felt right. I also added, to make it into more of a layout, all I did was grab a square selection of my background, and I hit Control J and put that on a new layer and added a border to it. And you can see that made a really cool effect. So let's turn these layers off now. And let's go back up to our flower layer, and let me show you another method. Now this method I don't like as well, but then again it gives a whole new look, and it may be something that you want to do. But the reason I don't like it as well is because it does cut off portions of your photo. It covers up portions of it. But let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. I'm going to create a new layer. Well, I actually want it right above my photo layer. Let's turn that grid back on, and I don't remember where I left this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I have 9. And this time what I'm going to do is click right here on the Add to Selection, and I'm going to activate it. And I'm going to utilize the subdivisions. I don't know if you can see this. The subdivisions, and I'm going to make a selection utilizing the subdivisions. Now this is actually leaving a large space in between the selections, and this may be a case where you would want to make it into the 1/4 subdivisions, so that you can get a little bit closer. But now you can see I've quickly drawn 3 selections that are matching because I've been utilizing the grid. I'm going to go to the Select drop down menu, click Inverse, and now that selection is in the entire area around my photo. And then I'm going to simply, you can either go to the Edit drop down menu and fill selection, or you can grab your paint bucket and fill that selection in. Let's go ahead and while we're at it, let's cut our frame. You don't have to, but I am going to, while I still have my grid open, make another selection equally around that, and then I'm going to select Inverse and hit Delete on my keyboard. Control D to get rid of the marching ants. Let's get rid of that grid, and now you can see I've got a frame coming on here. I'm going to go to the Edit drop down menu. I'm going to put a stroke around that frame. Let's get this black background so you can see it. Actually, let's get the black background. I think I put a black stroke around it. Let's change the foreground color to white. edit stroke, and then I'm going to go and add a bevel. Let's go ahead and turn off the black background. I don't like the way it's looking. Now you can see I have a whole new kind of frame. This is actually, if you look over here in the layers palette, it looks like a frame, and it's actually setting on top of my photo so that the pieces of my photo are peeking through. Now I guess if I wanted to, I could go ahead and make these smaller. Oh, you got to be on the right layer, in whatever manner I wanted to, and play with it further. And there you can see I've even varied it some more. And so I hope that you like all these methods and are inspired by them, and I would just love to see all of your layouts with your photos sliced up and moved around and angled, and what creative ways that you can come up with. And I'm going to be watching the forums anxiously. Thanks for watching.